Thank you. That's perfect. Thank you, Christy. My great colleague Wendy is here to talk about her idea of a project. It's still in preliminary stages. Wendy, you're here, right? And yeah, I think you are.
I am here.
Well, that's great. That's great. Hey, good to see you.
Hi.
So I thought it would be a great moment for us to hear from Wendy about her project with the Eastern Arc, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the Eastern Arc and also coastal communities, because we are aware that Aurora Network partners within coastal communities or around coastal communities might be very interested in a potential project, a potential network, and so on. So we thought we would give the floor to Wendy for a few minutes. But please, Wendy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I should just say before I start that I'm still recovering from a bout of COVID. So my voice is a little bit croaky, so I apologise in advance if I squeak at any point. But thank you for the invite, Ailim, and thanks for being here, everybody. It's been a marathon, as Sarah said. I've been dipping in and out when I can, and the programme looks fantastic. So I'm really pleased to be a part of it. So thank you. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of context before I give you a description of the idea of a project. So I represent UEA as part of the Eastern Arc Consortium, and that is a consortium that brings UEA together with the universities of Kent and the University of Essex. And as part of that consortium, we've been developing various foci for us to think about and share resources, share expertise and those kinds of things. And one that we've been developing that's rather exciting is based around place and our shared locations, if you like, along the eastern and southern coast of the United Kingdom, from the Wash down to the English Channel. And Eastern Arc commissioned a report recently which highlights what many of us who live and work in the region already know, but that this is a region of dramatic contrasts. So it's a region of significant prosperity and also of stark deprivation. It's got urban centres as well as large agricultural areas and an agricultural richness. It's got areas of outstanding natural beauty that are recognised officially, as well as areas of historic significance, but it's also a really important region for trade, transport, migration movements, both historically and in the contemporary. I just want to highlight a few of the findings of the report, just to highlight the starkness of the area. But the coastal districts highlighted, not the areas inland, but the coastal districts highlighted in the report are all in the top 20 of the most deprived areas in England. The coastal towns across the southeast and eastern region have the lowest average pay in the region, and 95% of those areas fall far below the national average. The coastal communities have the lowest skills and education in the region. Life expectancy across the coast in our region is lower than the national average, and obviously with that comes quite stark health inequalities. And excuse me, our coastal towns and communities have the highest numbers of people living in fuel poverty across the region. I also want to highlight a few of the strengths of the area that the report found, and all of these are kind of relevant to the project. So there's a large clustering of creative sector employment along the coast that's higher than the national average. This is quite significant in Norfolk as well as areas of Kent. There's a large concentration of heritage assets along the coast. Again, North Norfolk is highlighted here, and places like Aldborough in Suffolk, Colchester, and a few areas scattered around Kent. Very high concentrations of renewable and low carbon energy sector employment along the coast. And of course, there's a significant number of important transport hubs and ports. We've got 13 commercial ports, 6 passenger ports, and 5 container ports. So it's a really important area for trade and the movement of people too, people and goods. We held a conference last September, which was called the Collaborative Coast, and this brought together academics from across the 3 institutions alongside councils, arts organisations, other stakeholders, to explore ways of working together. And this got me thinking about how these kinds of ideas that we were talking about could be expanded upon, really, because one of the things that we didn't really talk about was looking beyond that coast. And so I want to look beyond the coast, across the sea, if you like. So as Aileen highlighted, this is a very new project. It's literally been the last month or so that we've been thinking about it. But it's basically my idea, and the idea I've been talking about to other people is that it's a project that is formed of 3 specific components. I envisage those being research, partnership, as well as advocacy. So initially, the idea for the project is to focus on this shared coastal region of the Eastern Counties and seek to build on existing, as well as forge new links with institutions and community partners across the North Sea, from, say, Scandinavia to the Netherlands. Obviously, this could be bigger than that. I've already been speaking to people in Cornwall, where I'm from, who are really interested in the kind of cultural heritage, coastal heritage idea. So it's got scope for being a bigger network, I think. Whilst at the initial stage of development, the project takes the numerous environmental, social and economic problems faced by coastal communities. So things like ecological collapse, sea level rise, flooding, coastal erosion, those health inequalities, lack of public transport and infrastructure, income inequality and educational attainment, for example, and intends to work with various institutions, from higher education institutions to communities on both sides of the North Sea, to explore historic, cultural and economic links and shared problems, with the aim of finding community-led and creative solutions. So the heart of this project, I think, is a kind of remapping of shared spaces, or a reminding of shared spaces. In this case, that would be the sea, to shift our thinking and practice from one controlled by borders. So I'm thinking about physical as well as political borders, which is obviously quite important to us in the UK since we've left the EU. So moving away from that thinking about borders to one of shared identities, histories and experiences. So in short, and a kind of illustrative example I gave to Aileen when we talked about this before, is that those involved in the fishing industry, say, in Suffolk and Norfolk, and those involved in the fishing industry in, say, the Netherlands, share a common set of histories, stories, experiences and spaces that can foster and have fostered and do foster shared identities, sense of community cohesion, and potentially collaborative solutions to challenges faced on both sides of the North Sea. So at the heart of the project is a commitment and a desire to cut across those political borders that have themselves cut across those shared experiences and identities, and to gather, co-create, celebrate historic and contemporary stories that remap the region. But I think it's important to note that it's about remembering those shared heritages that span those spaces and that have been interfered with by various politicians and political programs, if you like. So at the heart of the project really is the idea of hope, and hope as a political category that empowers and enables people to collaborate and produce creative solutions to turbulent and uncertain lived experiences. So as such, the idea for this project is to explore the role of hope in the development of community resilience and community empowerment, where those communities across those sea spaces face similar issues. So in the face of economic, social, environmental deprivation, there's already a lot of evidence of community mobilisation and activism, of course, centred on visions for a better future across the region and beyond onto the continent. So things like youth groups that are kind of claiming place and ownership and responsibility of their local communities, for example. So we intend to work with these hopeful visions and to undertake historically and culturally informed place-based storytelling and story making to further and transform our understandings of the problems faced by coastal communities, and importantly to co-create, design and formulate potential policy and management solutions. Excuse me. So partnership is obviously key to the thinking informing this project. So that could be partnership across the region here, across the continent, into the continent, partnership between research institutions as well as community organisations, policy bodies and wider publics, and partnership between disciplines I think is important as well. And from this, I think that there will be a natural route to advocacy where we can amplify community concerns and problems, but importantly, also amplify community-led, community-created solutions, as well as amplifying our role as institutions, research institutions and universities as central to the social and economic solutions to the intractable global challenges that are shared across borders, but that are particularly felt right now along coastal regions. I'm going to stop there because my voice is about to go, and I think that's about 10 minutes as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Wendy. I mean, you touched upon so many important things that we have throughout the last 2 days. We've been talking about research, partnership, engagement, and advocacy. And thank you for your presentation. And I'm sure colleagues will join me in thinking the same, because when I heard Wendy talk about this project, and I was thinking, Aurora partners have got to hear about this, because there will be things, there will be potential for partnership, for collaboration. As Wendy, you said, I think quite rightly so, it's really preliminary stages, and it can become a much more international, and also, you know, even more because of internationalization kicking in, project as well. So I love that idea that it's to do with advocacy as well, and communities coming up with solutions themselves for themselves. But as researchers, as international educators and researchers, we offer platforms for people to have their own agency. So it is absolutely wonderful, and I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you for a great pitch. You know, it's just wonderful. Sabine came onto the camera, so I don't know if Sabine, you wanted to join, comment or anything.
Yes, I just wanted to give many thanks indeed, and that was such an interesting vision and panorama that you were giving, and about extending and creating partnerships, as Elam was saying. This linked to the community in this notion of empowerment in the current Aurora program is very much linked to also service learning. And I wanted to ask you your take on the integration of service learning and such programs, or the potential for development, and how we can expand on this, and maybe also connect some of your brilliant activities to what we're doing in Aurora.
Well, I mean, in many ways, I'm going to throw that back to you. I mean, I'm open to, I never see limitations. It's probably one of my own limitations that I never think about limitations, because they limit us. So I think any opportunity to incorporate, or at least have conversations about incorporating different ways of doing things, different ways of approaching things, different, you know, involving different communities in different ways, is fantastic. And it's exactly what networks like this should be doing, right? But speaking from your perspective, you know more about this than me, I think, in terms of what the network could do, and how this could be forwarded and shared and expanded and developed.
Yes, and for me, yes, that as I said, that one of the places for really working on empowering communities for us in the program currently is in the service learning. And we have witnessed that the students and the professors and the people from the communities have been really extremely enthusiastic, and it has been a very powerful transformational tool that we have seen in Aurora. And yes, I was wondering if you saw the format of service learning as we have it as limiting, but there, yeah, your response on limits and possibilities says it all. So I think we are going to continue the conversation and enable connections with the colleagues then. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, Sabine. And I feel like I've got a little action point for myself to connect Wendy with Sabine and other Aurora colleagues, because there is a lot of potential there for collaboration and definitely partnership in terms of advocacy and in terms of service learning in that regard. So Wendy, thank you so much. We're about a minute left. I think that's okay, James. I'm looking at James. Thank you for your patience as well. And really, really appreciate you joining us and pitching us the idea. And I'm sure colleagues will be happy to reach out to me or to Ayane to get or to yourself, Wendy, to be able to hear a little bit more about what your plans might be, perhaps in detail. But it is my action point to link you up with Sabine and other Aurora colleagues wherever I can, as soon as possible. So thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you. And anybody is welcome to get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to talk with anybody about this. And thank you, Aileen, for the invite once again, and I hope the rest of the event goes very, very well.